Tonight, the Professional Women's Hockey League scores a massive venue upgrade.
Just shows and speaks to the strength of the PWHL, the athletes, and the journey that we're on together.
The inspiring moment, what it means for the pro players and the little ones shooting to get there.
Doing everything in our power to accelerate the construction of Highway 413.
Plus, pedal to the metal for road infrastructure. Why critics say Ford's plan puts his housing targets in jeopardy.
We really want to celebrate winter.
And spotlighting a unique fair helping young people new to Canada fall in love with Toronto's winter. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us on a busy Friday night. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but first I want to quickly update you on a number of developing stories. First to Mississauga, and Peel police say one person is in hospital following a stabbing at Square One Mall this evening. Police say officers received reports of a possible stabbing just after 5. Investigators say there was an altercation involving a group inside the shopping center during what they believe was a robbery attempt. Emergency responders transported a pediatric patient to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. There was no age given for the young person. Now, in all, 6 people were arrested, and police say all of them are under 18. And in North York, police say they were called to Driftwood Avenue just east of Jane Street around 6 p.m. tonight, following reports of a different shooting. When they arrived, they found a teenaged boy suffering from a gunshot wound, and he was taken to a nearby trauma center and is in serious but stable condition. Police say the suspect fled the scene in a black sedan. Now, he is described as being between 16 and 18 years of age, with long black curly hair, who was last seen wearing black jeans. And there was an outpouring of sadness and outrage today in the international community and here in Toronto after Russia's prison service reported opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead.
Navalny symbolized something that very few politicians have: true integrity and true bravery. And those qualities were ultimately not welcome in Putin's Russia, which is why he was poisoned. And he nonetheless had the courage to return. He returned, he faced his prosecutors, and he was never broken.
Okay, so the demonstration that you're seeing was held in front of the Russian consulate here in Toronto, while other cities across Canada also held similar events. Navalny was Russian President Vladimir Putin's most prominent critic. Many Canadian officials, including Canada's Prime Minister, denouncing Putin and his government following the news. Many at Toronto's demonstration calling on the international community to stand up against Putin's human rights abuses.
At least here, abroad, we can cooperate together, because in Russia it's impossible. In Russia you'll be hit by police, and it's just very dangerous.
Navalny returned to Russia just over 2 years ago, where he was immediately detained and had been behind bars ever since. Navalny was 47 years old. All right, turning next to another historic moment for women's professional hockey. For the first time tonight, the PWHL battled on the ice down at Scotiabank Arena. The upgrade from the University Rink comes after multiple sold-out face-offs at Mattamy Athletic Centre. For more on what it all means, Anam Khan is live outside Scotiabank Arena. And Anam, what a nice way to cap off the week here.
Yes, Chris, the game just wrapped up not too long ago. The final score was 3-0 and Toronto beat Montreal. And after the game, they had the final attendance count up on the Jumbotron, over 19,000 seats. So it's really what it is a huge win for women's hockey. Toronto's team usually plays at TMU's Mattamy Athletic Centre, and that has a capacity of 2,500 people. And this was 7 times larger than that. A rapidly growing interest in women's hockey, and tonight we see it.
I'm proud that they can finally play in like a big arena and be celebrated that's like as big as the NHL.
For the first time, the Toronto's Professional Women's Hockey League played in Scotiabank Arena, and the arena was sold out. Fans sporting the jerseys of their favorite players.
I've always supported women's hockey, whether hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever. I feel the sport is a sport.
Over 18,000 tickets sold within minutes weeks ago. The league says they saw the momentum building.
You know, Mattamy holds 2,500, which we've been selling out every single game since the inaugural home opener.
The PWH hit the ice for the first time in January after the collapse of the National Women's Hockey League. Even still, halfway into its first season, every achievement for the league is historic.
We all appreciate it, and it just shows and speaks to the strength of the PWHL, the athletes, and the journey that we're on together, and it feels amazing.
A few of us were saying, like, we can't believe this is sold up all the way up to the nosebleeds, and I think it's going to be pretty cool when everyone's waving those towels, and I know we're just really excited. We have a lot of friends and family coming. There's going to be a ton of energy.
And there was. Fans waved their towels. Fans feeling like women's hockey has come a long way, especially those who felt like a minority in the sport growing up.
It was mostly boys, and I'd be relegated to, you know, like the janitor's room or the referee's room. And like, with this happening, I don't think that's going to be happening anymore.
And for many little girls, their dreams of playing hockey professionally don't feel so out of reach.
I feel like it might be me when I grow up.
Victoria Murray is here with her teammates at the Brampton Canadiens, hitting the ice during intermission.
We usually just play at our hometown rink or at an away game, but never at an arena this big.
And many young girls tonight already know what they want to be when they grow up.
A famous hockey player. A famous hockey player. I want to be a hockey player.
Chris, this is where the Leafs play, and tonight they got a box to support women's hockey in this arena, and the PWHL hopes to play more games in this arena.
Anna, what a heartwarming story. I love those little girls that you showed us. Thank you so much for bringing it to us on this Friday night. Have a great night.
You too.
And a live look for you on this cold Friday evening, too. -4, feeling like -9, and it's getting even colder through the night. With the wind chill, it'll feel as cold as -15 overnight. Now, tomorrow morning, expect more flurries and a high of -4 tomorrow. Any snow falling expected to taper off by noon, and then mainly cloudy for your Saturday afternoon. Coming up a little later in the show, Victor Paolo will be here to time out when it's set to get a bit warmer, so stick around for that. But first, I want to turn to provincial politics, and the Ford government says it's tabling legislation next week to speed up infrastructure projects. The Get It Done Act includes picking up the pace for new highways and hydro corridors, but some worry it'll lead to other problems. Tyler Cheese has the details.
Ontario's Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks was in Brampton today to explain how the province plans to speed up its infrastructure targets. That comes in the form of changes to the environmental assessment process, which takes place before a project begins.
That will save time and money by adopting a project list approach to the environmental assessment, which will specify which types of infrastructure projects require the highest level of assessment.
The province says the changes are necessary to meet a growing population with crucial infrastructure, especially its planned new highways.
We're doing everything in our power to accelerate the construction of Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass.
But environmentalists say the move is counterintuitive to many of the province's long-term goals.
The government wants to remove full-scale environmental assessment from white elephant mega highway schemes like Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass, which would actually slow down housing output, make it harder to ramp up transit by diverting construction capacity away from low-cost housing development, labor-efficient housing development in existing neighborhoods.
The NDP's environment critic also has concerns, saying this government has a history of prioritizing its own interests over the environment.
With the Greenbelt grab, they did not consider species at risk. They didn't consider the changes that this would have impact on our wetlands.
The bill will be tabled in the legislature next week when MPPs return to Queen's Park for the first time in 2024. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Brampton.
The provincial NDP is raising concerns tonight about the increasing number of private medical clinics here in Ontario. At Queen's Park today, NDP MPP Jessica Bell was joined by a group of people whose family doctor left her practice last year and joined another clinic. Here's how one patient describes what happened next.
Well, I frantically searched for a doctor willing to take me on. My doctor went to practice at MD Direct, a for-profit boutique family clinic, charging patients an annual block fee of up to $5,000, depending on age.
Should be investigated by the province to see if they violate the Canada Health Act. The party is also calling on the Ford government to address the shortage of family doctors in Ontario by increasing primary care funding. Now to some worrying news for parents. An infant is currently in hospital after contracting the measles. Toronto Public Health confirmed the case was linked to travel. Measles are highly contagious and it can spread through the air and close contact. Symptoms include red rashes, fever, cough, runny nose, red eyes, and fatigue. And you can start to present them anywhere from 7 to 21 days after exposure. Toronto Public Health says vaccinations are highly effective in preventing the spread of measles. Now, Europe has been dealing with a spike in measles cases in recent weeks. Taking you east to Durham, where regional politicians are calling for help from other levels of the government, and they say funding is needed to help support its homelessness and opioid crisis. Dale Manuktuk has more.
Homelessness in Durham region has hit a breaking point.
The solutions that we had and the funding that we had and the ability to address this problem a year ago isn't coming anywhere close to what we need to be able to address it today.
At this youth shelter serving people aged 16 to 24, requests for service has exploded.
If we look just at January 2023 to January 2024, we've seen a 163% increase.
Durham is struggling to keep up and is asking for more help.
Clearly, the region is doing everything it can do, but it can't do anything without the cooperation of the province and without the federal government.
The region is looking for long-term solutions and is inviting both the Prime Minister and Premier Doug Ford to meet with Regional Council.
Communities are going to go bankrupt. You cannot pay for this or solve it at the municipal level.
Durham is also experiencing a surge in substance abuse, putting a strain on emergency services. From January 1st to February 11th, paramedics responded to 127 calls for suspected opioid overdose. That's 72 more compared to the same time frame last year.
And yet we're spending more money on this issue than ever before. And when you look at, what's happening in Ontario, there's a community that declared a crisis this week.
In addition to the opioid crisis, housing affordability is also playing a role for organizations that put roofs over people's heads.
We were able to house at least some people, but now we're finding it just so difficult to house people because they can't afford it. So there is a big issue with income.
CBC Toronto reached out to the upper levels of government. The province says it's invested over $18 million in Durham in the last budget to combat homelessness, but wouldn't commit to a meeting with the region. The feds did not respond in time for broadcast. In the meantime, the region is opening a new 45-bed shelter that will be operated by the Christian Faith Outreach Center. And Durham Youth Services was approved by the federal government to run the country's second community hosting program. Residents will have a chance to offer spare bedrooms to vulnerable youth. The program hopes to roll out by the summer.
The reality is in youth homelessness, we see a surge of homelessness when final report cards come out.
Dale Manuktuk, CBC News, Ajax.
Back to Toronto and an active police investigation. A 14-year-old girl is facing murder charges and another person is being sought after a man was stabbed at Wilson subway station last night.
I understand the suspects and the victim did not know each other, so this is considered a random stabbing that occurred, and that's very concerning to us.
Investigators say a 52-year-old man was exiting the subway around 5:30 last night when he got in an altercation with a young female and a male suspect. Police say the man was then assaulted and stabbed. The victim was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, and the female was arrested at the scene. She is facing assault charges and failing to comply. The male suspect fled northeast along Wilson Avenue toward Wilson Heights Boulevard. Returning now with a cool outdoor fair today in Thorncliffe Park. Community members say it was all about encouraging young people and new immigrants to get out and enjoy Toronto's winter. Olivia Bowden has more as part of CBC's Community in Focus initiative.
We really want to celebrate winter.
Sabina Ali knows how isolating the cold weather can be for new immigrants. She's the founder of the Thorncliffe Park Women's Committee. For the last 16 years, the committee has thrown a winter fair, which is especially important for kids, she says.
We really want people to be engaged, and especially the young community, youth and children.
According to the 2021 census, a quarter of the population is 14 and younger. Many of the children are new immigrants to Canada, as the neighborhood is known as a landing hub for newcomers.
The people, the food, and all that type of stuff.
High schooler Dawood Chowdhury emigrated from Pakistan in 2018. He says he loves Thorncliffe because it feels like home. That's all due to how connected the residents are to each other. Those connections caught the attention of some U of T student volunteers. Paula Damianova says she was drawn to Thorncliffe due to the women-run community events.
It was just one of the more interesting ones to me because it was, you get to interact with people like children, and so women specifically.
At the fair, the Women's Committee is hoping to sign youth up for their spring and summer programs, which involves engaging with the nature nearby.
With children, when they participate in the gardening programs, they learn that the food that they eat is not brought from the grocery stores, but that is actually grown.
Organizers of the fair say that they make the event work despite Thorncliffe's limited public space. But ultimately, the goal is to help people feel more connected and together in Thorncliffe, even during those colder months. Olivia Bowden, CBC News, Toronto.
And they sure picked a good cold one to hold all of that on. Right now, it is certainly feeling closer to -8 with that wind chill. We are looking live right now at Mississauga's Celebration Square. And tomorrow, it's going to get even colder. Let's get to Victor Paolo now. Victor, very cold for sure, but at least we don't have as much active weather to deal with like we did yesterday.
Absolutely. And, if you were sick of all of that snow that came yesterday, the good news is you're not going to be receiving much more of it this weekend. We're expecting a light amount, as you can see, to pass by right around the time the late show starts. And by the time we start our morning, another very, very light amount of snow is going to pass. And when it comes to your Saturday, we're expecting only about 2 centimeters to fall. Not that much, and that's a very generous forecast of how much snow should be falling on your Saturday. Now, as we get closer to your overnight into Sunday, another bit of snow will be coming, but this one here will be a little more than the one that came on Saturday. So you'll definitely notice when that snow falls in comparison to the day before. Now, when it comes to your overnight low tonight, it's going to be feeling a lot colder, closer to double digits. As you do take a bit of a peek later on as to what we're going to be anticipating for your weather, well, that snow which we're talking about, which is going to be a big theme when it comes to your Saturday and Sunday, is not going to be that much, because you could see by Sunday close to supper, that's where we're going to be around that 5 centimeter mark, possibly worst case scenario, total accumulation through the weekend. Now, our last look at what we're looking at for the wind gusts, we can see the wind is not going to be that strong in comparison to what it was earlier in the day yesterday, especially towards that overnight. Now, we're expecting weather to get warmer as we do get later on into your week. For the middle of next week, we're expecting things to get back to more milder temperatures. Now, a quick look at your 3 and 5 day forecast. What is the story here? Well, it's going to be a little bit of scattered flurries, some more scattered flurries on Sunday than Saturday the day before. Then Monday, your family day off, it gets a bit warmer. Tuesday, as you can see, it gets a slight bit warmer, and Wednesday is going to be cloudy, but it's also going to be a little bit warm. So Toronto, have yourselves a lovely long weekend, and over to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. All right, TTC riders who travel through the city's West End will soon face a new hurdle on their commute. Starting this weekend, the King streetcar is set to be diverted for months. Lane Harrison has the details.
If you are a 504 streetcar rider who lives between Dufferin and Shaw, don't miss your chance to glide down King Street one last time for the next while. Because after Sunday, streetcars won't be running on that stretch for most of the year.
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. It sucks.
It seems to happen constantly.
Yeah, I think that's crazy because it's been happening like so many times.
We are going to have to find different modes of transportation to really get to work on time.
The diversion is because of construction set to start next week, which means both the 504 and less frequent 508 will be diverted up to Queen starting on Sunday, while the 63 Ossington bus will see its route expanded to help replace the service. Changes that will be in place until at least December. Construction is going to start here at King and Shaw and go all the way west to King and Dufferin. Crews are going to be working starting this month to replace an old water main that runs underground, and then from May all the way through December, they'll be working to tear up and replace streetcar tracks. The transit agency says the track replacements are an important piece of maintenance, and once this work is done, these tracks should last another 15 to 20 years.
We like to coordinate our work, our necessary infrastructure work, with that of the city. In this case, the city is repairing a century-old water main, so at the same time we're going to use this as an opportunity to replace our tracks.
The work will also make things tougher for drivers, with King Street set to be reduced to one lane during the water main replacement. While some residents are annoyed by the changes, others understand work needs to be done.
I think that has to happen. I think we need good infrastructure for the city.
Because when you're used to a certain commute, like when it changes, it's really, it gets annoying, right? Yeah. But, I mean, it's life, you know? I mean, what can you do, right? Like, everybody has to do their job, so I'm pretty sure they're not doing it to piss people off, right? So.
Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Toronto's Motorcycle and Power Sport Show is ready to help you fly into this weekend. Even if you're not a big biker, organizers say it is worth the trip.
If you've never been on a motorcycle, or your kids are thinking about it, or you're thinking about it for your kids, we have the Stacy activity where kids can get on the smallest two-wheelers and just get the sense of balance, to the Yamaha Ride Academy that gets you on a motorcycle, helmet and everything, and get you learning and getting the feel for a real motorcycle.
The three-day event features bikes from all the top brands, including Harley-Davidson, Honda, and Suzuki. The goal is to promote motorcycles as more than just a leisure ride. A report from Motor Canada says the motorcycle and off-highway vehicle industry contribute an estimated $4 billion in economic output in Ontario. Very cool. And that's it for us tonight. Join Shannon Martin tomorrow at 6 p.m. and I'll be back with you on Monday at 11. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you on the other side.